Okay, right. I'm not gonna lie. I've got a script because I'm never gonna remember this. I'm never gonna be able to do it without it. So, um, yeah. Without further ado, let's get into it. Um, this isn't gonna be easy to do or say. And it's probably not gonna be easy to hear for some people. Um, some of you, this will be the first time you've heard of me or seen me. Others will already know who I am and what I'm planning. It's difficult to know where to begin, what to include in this video. So to begin with, I'm just going to give you some background on me. The context of my life should help to clarify what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So again, let's get into this. My name's Josh. I'm 30 later this month, and I'm an author. Currently, I have a trilogy that's ready for you to read, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. I'm also working on a host of other titles, one of which I am editing at this very minute and will be releasing shortly. It's a short solo tale, so it doesn't take much investment to find out whether I'm a good writer or not, whether it's worth your time. There's no easy way to address the next section, so I'm just going to jump right into the context of my life. When I was about 13 or 14, I was hacked. I remember the event clearly, 17 years on, and the continual hacking since. Obviously, it was really bad when I was a kid. It got better when I became a young adult. But the continued effects had a massive effect on my mental health as I was growing up. The world was different when I was younger. The internet was different. But this is the only assumption I'm going to make. But given how the world has progressed since I was a child, I'm pretty sure I was right. I always had a feeling when something wasn't right. And after years of multiple events, I came to the assumption that I was being hacked by paedophiles. I was a child with no money, so they definitely weren't coming back to keep skimming my accounts. There was nothing else interesting for them. It was just a child and a webcam. And like I say, it was many, many signals that were, I remember, do you remember those things? These events changed me as a child, and I became very paranoid and introverted. And I was already dealing with issues at school, and the fact that I was being hacked only made things worse. Roll on a few years, and now I'm very depressed, suicidal 18-year-old. I'd left school, started smoking weed. That was how I dealt with my issues because I didn't have anyone to talk to. And obviously I was starting in the working world as an adult, as you do. You start losing more of your time to work. And because I'd gone to school in Loughborough, and I lived in Melton, I ended up a bit of a loner. Obviously, I didn't want to connect with anybody. The paranoia, I just didn't know who to connect with or whatever. So, but when I started work, I found one or two people that I did want to open up to, become friends with, and allow into my life, and to know what was going on in my head a lot of the time. So things were starting to feel like they were getting better. And I was working at Tesco's at the time. Tesco's in the morning and Domino's at night time. So I was working like 80 or 90 hour weeks. So like I say, the tiredness and the depression was compounded by that. But yeah, like I say, two of my friends that I was working with, one of whom I was very close with, I used to spend every break out in the car listening to music and stuff. And the two of them took their own lives when, like I say, when I was about 20. And the events devastated those close to them as well as me and the wider community. And that is an issue that isn't just at that moment in time. Like, I know of other people who have since, and their families. So there will be again another video, another section about mental health specifically, and I will get into that at another stage. This video is not specifically about that. So yeah, by now in my life, I was starting to think about things that I wanted out of my life. I was still extremely depressed and suicidal. And I was contemplating, like I say, what I wanted out of life, what I wanted to do, before ever making a decision to give up. So I decided I wanted to go to Australia. I'd made a promise the year before to the two friends who had just committed suicide, that we were all going to go to Australia together and have this amazing holiday. For me, Australia has always been this amazing place. It's where I want to live. But at the time, I was just content in my life with going there on holiday, just seeing the place I dreamed about once before making any decisions. Like I say, whether I was going to end my own life. It was kind of an escape. Like, I was escaping going over there as well, and I realised whilst I was out there that there was no escape from what was going on in my life, what was going on in the world. And like I say, when I was in Australia, I really had my eyes opened. I couldn't be blind to stuff anymore. You started to see how the puzzle pieces fit together and how it all works. And like I say, whilst I was out there, I learned a lot, so much about myself and how things worked in the world, how other people worked. My mum was a psychologist whilst I was growing up, and I've always had a keen interest in how people work, how minds work. Obviously, being depressed and suicidal, I was always going through my own thoughts and things like that. So yeah. But this trip to Australia was good for many reasons. Like, I got to meet my family whilst I was out there. I didn't have a dad whilst I was growing up. He left when I was young, and didn't really want to be a big part of my life. Never had a granddad on my mum's side. He passed away before I was born. So I've not really had a big male influence in a big portion of my life. So it was nice to meet my great uncle whilst I was out there and sort of connect with what I was, what I was supposed to be. The main reason you'll be interested in is that I had this dream or vision whilst I was out there. I was obviously reading a lot, going through a lot, and whilst I was out there, I wasn't smoking at all. So it was like three or 4 months of like kicking the habit. So clearer mind, clearer vision, I suppose. But I was trapped in this dream or nightmare, depending on how you look at it. And I was trapped in it for many many years. That's how it felt, at least. Obviously, I woke up the following morning, but in my head, I had travelled and viewed events going years into the future. At the time, it was 2012. I sat in my great uncle's front room watching the English held Olympics from Australia, which was a strange event. It was strange to have a national event that I was, obviously, it was my nation, and to view it from another nation was, from their perspective, it was quite interesting. And it was in the middle of a temperate winter, and there was a lot of issues in the world. America was suffering with a mosquito problem, and I think it was Nile virus again at the time. But yeah, in my dream, a shadowy force had used genetic manipulation to affect a virus before releasing it into the world. This force was called the Umbra, or to me it was called the Umbra, which is Latin for shadow, shadow cast. And like I say, this force was called the Umbra. They operated under a black flag. And the idea was to use a virus to wipe out human population and then inhabit and rule a much quieter world after, inoculating themselves and anyone that was subservient to them and their cause. Now, I've spent the last 9 years writing, editing and stressing over this trilogy, and as a dyslexic, this has a certain amount of love. It was a labour of love to me. There was no way this was getting done without wanting to help people. So sometimes I didn't want to, I'll be honest with you. You know, you have dragged me virtually to the apocalyptic dream that I saw. So it has been difficult to want to save people who are pulling themselves down the drain. But like I say, I just hope you'll listen. So I tried to inform people at the time what was going on, how they could make a change, but no one would listen, or they couldn't understand what I was thinking or talking about. So I decided the best idea was to go ahead and write the events that I'd seen as a book. I literally started it as soon as I came home from Australia. Started it before I came home from Australia. So I was always going to write it. It was in my mind as a backup if people weren't listening anyway. So I did. I just got on, and that's what I've been doing for the past 9 years, working on this trilogy. The events in the trilogy are different from what I saw. Mostly it was flashing images and emotions that obviously affected me in the long run and have stuck with me up until now. And they're what I used to build and portray the story and the image and message I was trying to get across. Like obviously I'm not going to get big into the conspiracy stuff here in this video, but I'm hoping we can all agree that there's a need to be some serious changes in our world if the planet is going to continue to support life beyond our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So I've talked about me, I've talked about some of the plot in the book. I don't want to be like every American movie trailer and give away the best bits. So now I'm going to move on to the plan. Current price of the book reflects my pricing costs and the postage involved. Once that's deducted, obviously that's the point where I make a profit. Now, as I've already said, most, if not all of the money earned will be used to build and grow our world. But I have specifically said that 30% of profit will go towards charities and charitable events or functions that I deem. Also, I have personal goals to build structures and elements into our global economy so that we learn to work together in different ways and compete or battle in new ones, rather than expecting there to be no animosity, competitiveness, and all the ego, anger, and frustration that goes with it. But again, this is a topic for another video. Specifically though, I want to work on our energy needs and energy consumption. Sustainability is the goal here. The original name for the first book was Virid, which means in Latin to become green, which is obviously the emphasis and the driving force behind what's going on here. Like I say, sustainability is the goal. Then we can look at things like food production, housing, our health system, as well as mental health issues, which is a big topic at the minute. Obviously, I can do a video about mental health and how I dealt with my issues. But like I say, I'm not here doing that now. I'm not looking for sympathy about the situation. What happened to me is happening to thousands of people, children, day after day. So I need your help to change the world that we live in. The money raised by the trilogy will do that. I've watched my government and every government around the world fail their people's needs, whilst they follow profit towards war. I also see rich people, very wealthy people, being able to enact their will upon the world far better than any politician could from within the system. So now you know me and my plan. I hope you understand the gravity of my message. After the disease, there was war, and I know that you fight over ownership of diminishing resources, so you will inevitably go to war with one another. Oil, gas, and coal can all be replaced with green energy, ending the draconian process of burning fossil fuels for your energy. You fight over land. I promise you that if you help me, I will get you into space, but you have to respect one another and the land properly before that's going to be an option. You have to want to be able to work together. It's like a unity consciousness thing. Food isn't an issue with green sustainable energy, especially with vertical farming. And then that only leaves the stupid human emotion that creates war. Like I said, I'm not lying to myself, I'm not going to lie to you. I see our aggression being useful in the future to defend the human race against an invading alien force, potentially. So like I say, I want to include the Colosseum type events in our future, the gladiators and all that stuff. So basically, buy my trilogy and any future titles because it's only in your best interest. I'll entertain you whilst building a better world around you. If I told you that you could have a ticket to a better world for £30, there or thereabouts, I don't think most people would say no. That's less than the Queen and the government take off you each month, let alone for a lifetime. So all I'm asking is that you like and subscribe to my Facebook page, my YouTube channel, for more updates on the trilogy and any future titles. Like I say, Sapphire Sands will be released this year, so you'll be hearing about that soon, and hopefully very soon, if work in my private life and the stresses of life allow me the time. So yeah, if you want to hear more from me, comment below which sections you want to hear more about. If you've got questions, I will include a link below for the Amazon page to buy the book, and if you're viewing it on YouTube, I'll link it over to Facebook page. If you're viewing it on Facebook, I'll link you over to the YouTube page. But yeah, I'll leave that with you. Leave you to think about that. Like I say, there's a lot more I want to talk about, but I think that's enough for today. That's like 20-minute video. So peace, and I'll see you soon. Sound.